Hello everyone, I am Srikanta working as an assistant professor in the Department of ECE, Vignan's Foundation for Science, Technology and Research, deemed to be a university. Here I am going to teach the second unit of the course, Microwave and Radar Engineering. Unit 2 is Microwave Linear Beam Tubes in that O type, that is O means original type. In this unit, I am going to discuss the limitations of conventional tubes at microwave frequencies, two cavity Klystron amplifier, reflex Klystron and travelling wave tube. Coming to the introduction, a source of microwave power is essential for any microwave systems. That is, source is required for any microwave systems. That is, a source of microwave power required. All the communication and radar systems generally use high power for the transmitter and a few low power sources for local oscillator or down conversion. So here the high power is nothing but it is in terms of kilowatts. The power is in the form of continuous waves or so these are the powers, either it is in terms of continuous wave power or pulsed form. The radar transmitter often operates at a single frequency in the pulsed mode of low duty cycle, that is less than 1% of duty cycle, with peak power in the range of 100 kilowatts, having an average power of 100 watts. The radio astronomy requires a low power local oscillator. The microwave oven needs a high power CW source. A microwave oven needs high power CW source, that is at 700 watts of power at a single frequency, that is at 2.45 gigahertz. It is operating at 2.45 gigahertz, right? In communication, the requirement of microwave source is met by a variety of microwave solid state devices, that is for microwave solid state devices, that is for low power and low frequencies. So microwave solid state devices for low power and low frequencies, and as well as microwave tubes for these microwave tubes for high power and high frequencies. So microwave tubes are, whereas microwave tubes are for high power and high frequencies, whereas solid state devices are for low power and low frequencies. Typically, the solid state devices can generate a maximum CW power of 100 watts. These can generate maximum CW power of 100 watts at, that is below 1 gigahertz, and 10 watts are near 10 gigahertz, whereas microwave tubes can generate 10 kilowatts 10 kilowatts to 10 megawatts even at high frequencies of 100 gigahertz. Okay, so for simple laboratory experiments we are using reflex klystron and gun diode sources. Next, so in industrial applications, a solid state devices have completely replaced the tubes. The conventional vacuum tubes which were being used in radio receivers and even computers during 1950s and 1960s got substituted by transistors or ICs for all low frequency operations, that is less than 1 gigahertz operations. These conventional tubes, that is like a triode, tetrode and pentodes, had a lot of limitations and as a result could not be used for higher frequencies and for higher powers. Different types of tubes, example klystron tubes, travelling wave tubes and magnetrons were invented where the mechanism of electron movement was, that is electron movement was different, that is current modulation and velocity modulation, and not just transit time mechanism of like conventional tubes. Here it is the classification of microwave tubes. They are classified as amplifiers and oscillators. These are classified as amplifiers and oscillators. Under amplifiers, we have klystron amplifier. That is two cavity klystron amplifier, and travelling wave tube, that is also called as TWT. These two will be discussed in this unit, that is in second unit. Coming to the oscillators, we have reflex klystron and magnetron, that is reflex klystron and magnetron. So reflex klystron will be discussed in this unit, that is in second unit, whereas magnetrons will be covered in the next unit, that is in third unit. These are the topics I am going to discuss in the second unit. So starting with the limitations of conventional tubes at microwave frequencies, two cavity klystron amplifier, reflex klystron oscillator, travelling wave tube which will act as an amplifier. Limitations of conventional tubes. Limitations of conventional tubes at microwave frequencies. These are the learning outcomes. So coming to the learning outcomes, these are the learning outcomes of this lecture. After successful completion of this lecture, you will be able to understand the limitations of conventional vacuum tubes at microwave frequencies. So the limitations of conventional vacuum tubes at microwave frequencies. See, because these are very effective at low frequencies, so these are having some limitations at high frequencies, that is at microwave frequencies. That we will discuss in this lecture. Before going to discuss about the actual concepts, we will have a brief review on vacuum tubes, like what are the vacuum tubes and its features. So vacuum tubes. What is a vacuum tube? So it is an electronic device in which electrons flow, through a vacuum, is called a vacuum tube. It is an electronic device in which the electrons flow through a vacuum is called vacuum tube. So the normal conventional vacuum tubes used in radio receivers during the 1960s were of 2 inches to 5 inches height with a diameter of 0.5 inches to 1.5 inches. While the larger tubes are used even today in radio station transmitters also. These are used for frequencies up to 50 megahertz and generate over 10 kilowatts of power. These were invented by Lee Forrest in 1907 by placing a grid controlled element between the heated cathode and anode with positive voltage attracting the electron. So thus the basic elements of the vacuum tubes are, it consists of evacuated glass envelope which contains a cathode, anode and one or more electrodes called grids. Okay, so now cathode. What is cathode? What is its functionality? So which covers the heater for getting its full heat. Which covers the heater for getting its full heat. As we know that around a heated metal, an electron cloud gets created. The anode plate which is given high positive voltage, for attracting the electrons from the cathode, causing an electron current flow. The grid, which is wire mesh as a screen between the anode and cathode. A small negative voltage on the grid can control the electron flow. The output voltage can be controlled by the grid. Therefore, a small variation at the grid can lead to larger variations at the output AC voltage, that is acts as an amplifier. So as to improve the performance further, tetrode with 2 grids and pentode with 3 grids also we will discuss. Without any grid, that is the tubes were being used as a diode rectifiers, but because of the cost, size and heater supply requirements, it got replaced by semiconductor diodes during the 1960s. Here are the features of vacuum tubes. So the vacuum tubes are voltage controlled devices. These can operate very high voltages. So high power can be easily developed by the vacuum tubes. So according to the number of electrodes, that is we can call it as grids, vacuum tubes can be classified as vacuum diodes, vacuum triodes, vacuum tetrodes, vacuum pentodes. So in these diodes, 0 electrodes, no electrodes will be there, just only simple cathode and anode, right? Next, coming to the triode, there is one grid is there in between the cathode and anode. Next, coming to the tetrode, there are 2 grids. 2 grids will be placed between the cathode and anode. Coming to the pentode, there are 3 grids. 3 electrodes plates will be there in between the anode and cathode. So here in this figure we can observe the different vacuum tubes. See here, it is diode. It is cathode and here it is anode. Like triode, so one cathode, anode, in between cathode and anode, there it is one grid. Like tetrode, there are 2 grids in between cathode and anode. Like pentode, there are 3 grids between cathode and anode. So now coming to the limitations of conventional vacuum tubes at microwave frequencies. So these conventional low frequency tubes. Why it is called as low frequencies? These are very effective at low frequencies only. Okay, conventional low frequency tubes like triodes fail to operate at microwave frequencies because the electron transit time. This we will discuss in the transit time effect. Okay, so from cathode to grid become large that it cannot produce microwave oscillations. Okay, so in order for an amplifier to work efficiently at the desired frequency, the propagation times must be insignificant, and we see that conventional tubes have a significant propagation times and hence cannot be used. These cannot be used at microwave frequencies. These cannot be used at microwave frequencies. That is, conventional vacuum tubes like triode, tetrode, pentodes work satisfactorily up to 50 MHz. These will effective up to 50 MHz. These will be effective up to 50 MHz. But beyond this, the inter-electrode reactances, that is, the inter-electrode reactances come into play. This reactance, that is specially inter-electrode capacitance between cathode, grid and anode, it is being parallel to the external circuit, starts shorting the signal at higher frequencies. So there are other limitations also, because of which we were not able to use the conventional tubes at microwave frequencies, that is at higher frequencies, and scientists were invented the new type of tubes that we will discuss later. After completion of these limitations, we will discuss the tubes, whatever the invention are there. So these are the limitations. These are the limitations of the conventional tubes at microwave frequencies. First one is inter-electrode capacitance effect, that is shorting the signal. We can call it as, we also call it as IEC, inter-electrode capacitance effect. Next one is lead inductance, that is also called as impeding the signal. Its functionality is impeding the signal. So it is, shortcut is lead inductance, LI. Next one is transit time effect, being much larger than micro time period. So transit time effect, this is third one. Next, gain bandwidth product. In this one, it is the gain bandwidth product is independent of frequency, that we will see later. So next one is RF losses in wire due to skin effect. RF losses, that is in conductor, in dielectrics. RF losses in conductors and dielectrics. Next one, it is effects due to radiation losses, that is signal power loss will be there, right. So coming to the first one, inter-electrode capacitance, IEC effect, inter-electrode capacitance effect. So here, this is the triode structure, triode, inter-electrode capacitance effect for that triode. So there it is, cathode is there, anode in between, grid is there, right. So there is a capacitance exists. See, the capacitance exists when two pieces of metal are separated by a dielectric. The capacitance will exist when two pieces of metal are separated by a dielectric. Here also it is, the metals are separated by a dielectric material. So vacuum has a dielectric constant of 1. We know the vacuum has a dielectric constant of 1. See, here there is a capacitance exists between these plates. That capacitance we can call it as, so here cathode is there, I am considering it as K, and anode or plate, it is P, and grid G. Okay, the capacitance exists between this cathode and plate, it is CPK, and the capacitance which exists between cathode and grid is CGK, and the capacitance which exists between plate, that is anode and grid is CGP. These inductors we will discuss in the lead inductance effect. Okay, so now these are the capacitance will be existed in this one. So the elements of this triode, the elements of the triode are made up of metal and are separated by a dielectric material. So what is the dielectric material? It is vacuum, that is the constant of 1. So dielectric constant of 1. See here, so there must be exist capacitance between these plates. Okay, so this capacitance is inter-electrode capacitance. The capacitance exists between these electrodes, that is called inter-electrode capacitance, right? Now we will see the inter-electrode capacitance, how it will work. So as the frequency increases, because we are discussing at high microwave frequencies, right? So at microwave frequencies, the frequency will be more. Okay, so as the frequency increases, the reactance XC is equals to, we know that 1 by 2 pi Fc. 1 by 2 pi Fc. That reactance decreases. And the output voltage decreases due to the shunting effect. So why the reactance is decreasing? Because here Xc is equals to 1 by 2 pi Fc. So as the frequency we are increasing, as the frequency increases, then obviously it will be decreases, right? Next. So because at higher frequencies, this Xc is very low value, it becomes almost a short. Xc becomes almost a short. Now CGP, the capacitance existing between the plate, cathode and grids are CGP, CGK and CPK are the IECs, that is inter-electrode capacitances, which come into the effect. Now, so these will come into the picture, that is the effect of IEC can be minimized by reducing the IECs, that is CGK, CPK and CGP values. Why? Because here the relation, in this relation, so the frequency is increasing, so to keep it this reactance as constant, so we have to minimize the capacitance values. Okay, then there is a trade-off between these values and it cannot change. As frequency increases, we are trying to minimize these capacitance values. But how to minimize these capacitance values? That is the important thing we have to know here, right? We know the capacitance formula. What is the capacitance formula? C is equals to epsilon A by D, right? Capacitance C is equals to epsilon A by D. Okay, so here epsilon nothing but epsilon R, epsilon A into A by epsilon R, epsilon naught into A by D. Okay, so now how to reduce this value? How to reduce the capacitance value? Either by decreasing this value or increasing this value. That is, what is A? The size of the area of that electrodes. By decreasing the area of electrodes, this can be reduced by decreasing the area of electrodes, that is A, area of the electrodes A. By decreasing this value, we can decrease the capacitance, or by increasing the distance between the electrodes, that is the spacing between the electrodes we have to increase, that is D. If you increase the D, this will be reduces. Okay, it is okay. But what is the effect is there? This in turn reduces the current carrying capacity and power as well as the frequency of the use as well as. Okay, so now coming to the lead inductance effect. Lead inductance effect. Here there are the three inductors are existing as per the cathode, that is K, grid G, and anode, that is plate P, that is inductors LK, LP and LG, right? Okay, the common lead inductance is the inductance associated with the common connection of vacuum triode. Okay, so here this effect is more when the frequency of the signal is high, because obviously the frequency is high at microwave frequencies. So this effect is more when the frequency of the signal is high, right? So as the frequency increases, the inductive reactance increases. Why? Because what is the reactance value of that inductance at the, for the inductor, that is XL is equals to 2 pi F into L, right? XL is equals to 2 pi FL. See, as the frequency increases, obviously the reactance also will be increases. Okay. So, and due to the high inductive reactances, there is an input matching problem. Okay. This results in reducing the gain for the tube amplifier. So, next LK, LP, LG are the lead inductances that limit the performance of the tube. That limits the performance of the tube. So, the effect of lead inductance, can be minimized by decreasing L. Since L is proportional to the reactance, so that is L is proportional to the reactance. Okay, so L is equals to L by why? Because XL is equals to, we know, 2 pi FL. So here it is directly proportional to XL, right? So minimizing the L value here to keep it as constant, because we are increasing the frequency, right? So how to reduce that L value? That L is proportional to the reactance, because so L can be decreased by using large sized short leads without base pins, that is by increasing A and decreasing L. So here A is nothing but the area of that inductor, whereas L is the length of the inductor. Okay. So next, effect of transit time, that is transit time effect. So before that, we have to know what is transit time. So what is the transit time? The time taken for the electron to travel from cathode to anode. The time taken for the electron to travel from cathode to anode is called transit time. From cathode to anode, simply it is CA. The time taken for the electron to travel from cathode to anode is called transit time. Okay. So for low frequencies, that is at lower frequencies, the transit time is very small. That is, the electrons reach instantaneously the anode plate from cathode, because so the time taken from the cathode to anode is very less value when at low frequencies. Okay. Coming to that higher frequencies, the transit time becomes large. Because the source driving the grid becomes loaded and the gain of the vacuum tube becomes less than unity. Now we will see the transit time effect here. Here we are having the vacuum triode. So here it is a cathode, and here it is anode plate. Okay. So as per the definition of the transit time, the time taken for the electron to travel from cathode to anode, right? The time taken for the electron to travel from cathode to anode is called transit time. As I mentioned that at low frequencies the transit time is very less, right? As well as at higher frequencies the transit time is very large value. So why? Because we will see this here. So we know that for lower frequencies the number of cycles repeated are very less compared to the higher frequency waves. Now I am considering the high frequency wave. So it will repeat it more number of times. Lower frequency, higher frequency. Okay. So now just assume that here it is anode plate, here it is cathode. Anode plate and cathode plate. So for lower frequencies, just assume that one cycle. So for lower frequencies, it is the transit time is very less for lower frequency signals. That is, the time required for the electron to reach the anode from the cathode is very less, because directly it will reach. Okay. Coming to the higher frequencies, it is very much high value because the electron has to travel along all the distances. The electron has to travel all the way. So now the time taken for the electron to reach the anode from the cathode is more for higher frequencies. Okay. So this will comes into the picture, that is transit time effect is there for the limitations. Okay. Now we will see the derivation of this transit time and we will calculate the transit time. So as per the definition of the transit time, simply we know the time is nothing but distance by velocity. Okay. Here the transit time is denoted by tau and it is distance d, distance by velocity, right? The transit time tau is equals to distance d by velocity v naught. So whereas distance d is nothing but distance between anode and cathode d, and v naught is small v naught. V naught is velocity of an electron. Okay. Now coming to the static energy of the electrons. We know the static energy of the electrons, that is EV. Static energy of the electron is EV, where V is nothing but applied DC voltage, E is nothing but charge of an electron. Okay. And kinetic energy is equals to half mv naught square, where m is mass of an electron, v naught already mentioned the velocity of an electron. Now under the equilibrium condition, the static energy and the kinetic energy are equal. The static energy and kinetic energy are equal, that is EV equals to half mv naught square. From this I want to know what is the velocity of electron. That velocity of the electron is v naught is equals to square root of 2 EV by m. Okay. Substitute this value in the transit time, that is equation 1, then tau is equals to d by v naught, that is v naught is equals to square root of 2 EV by m. So finally the transit time tau is equals to d by square root of 2 EV by m. Okay. So the remedy for the transit time effect is, so for this, to minimize the transit time, how to minimize the transit time? The separation between the electrodes, that is d, can be decreased. So we can decrease d here, but if we decrease the d, there is one effect, that is, but this increases the inter-electrode capacitance effect, and the plate to cathode potential V can be increased, but this cannot be increased indefinitely. Therefore a trade-off between IEC and transit time is must. Clear? There is a trade-off between IEC and transit time must be there, right? Next, coming to the gain bandwidth limitations, or gain bandwidth product we can call it as. So maximum gain is achieved when the tuned circuit is at resonance. So when the maximum gain is achieved, the maximum gain is achieved when the tuned circuit is at resonance. So this is the output tuned circuit of a pentode. Okay. So parallel RLC circuit you can consider here. This is the output tuned circuit of a pentode. Okay. So we know the gain. Gain G is equals to what? So output voltage by inputs, that is V naught of S by Laplace transform of that output voltage by inputs, that is V naught of S by V in of S, that is gain. So apply the Laplace transform to the parallel circuit and replacing RL and RP. So that is replacing this RL and RP. So by R is equals to 1 by RL plus 1 by RP. So now we can calculate the admittance. Admittance, it is in terms of Fourier transform. Y naught of j omega is equals to 1 by j omega c plus 1 by j omega L plus 1 by R. Okay. So simplified it is j omega c plus 1 by j omega L plus 1 by R. Now we can represent in terms of Laplace transform, that is simply by replacing j omega with S. Okay. So then y naught of S is equals to Cs, that is j omega, simply it is replaced with S. So and 1 by Ls plus 1 by R. So that is in terms of impedances. 1 by Z naught of S is equals to S square RLC plus LS plus R by RLS. Now I am dividing the numerator and denominator with RLC. This I am dividing this numerator and denominator with RLC. Now I will get the expression like this: Z naught of S is equals to S by C plus S square plus S by RC plus 1 by LC. So the characteristic equation is given by this equation. The characteristic equation is given by S square plus S by RC plus 1 by LC. So it is like AX square plus BX plus C form. It is in the form of AX square plus BX plus C. Now we know the roots of the quadratic equation, that is minus B plus or minus B square, square root of B square minus 4AC by 2A. Here A is equals to, from this expression A equals to 1, B is equals to 1 by RC, C is equals to 1 by LC. Now substitute all these expressions in this one. Now we will get the quadratic equation roots, that is Z naught of S is equals to minus 1 by RC, that is B plus or minus square root of 1 by RC whole square B square minus 4 into AC. 4 into A is 1, C is 1 by LC by 2 into 1, that is A is 1. Now Z of S is equals to minus 1 by 2 RC plus or minus square root of 1 by 2 RC whole square minus 4 gets cancelled, 1 by LC, right. So on solving omega 1 and omega 2 roots are like this. Omega 1 is nothing but I am considering it as lower cutoff frequency, and this one will be considered, omega 2 will be considered, I am considering it as upper cutoff frequencies. So anyway, for lower cutoff frequencies lower value should be there. Here I am considering it as minus of term. For upper cutoff frequencies it is considering as plus term. So omega 1 is equals to minus 1 by 2 RC minus square root of 1 by 2 RC whole square minus 1 by LC, whereas omega 2 is equals to minus 1 by 2 RC plus square root of 1 by 2 RC whole square minus 1 by LC. Where G is equals to 1 by RC, we know that conductance, just replaced 1 by R with G, that is omega 1 is equals to minus of G by 2C minus square root of G by 2C whole square minus 1 by LC. Similarly omega 2 is equals to minus G by 2C plus square root of G by 2C whole square minus 1 by LC. Okay, here I am assuming it as G by 2C whole square is far greater than 1 by LC. From this expression, from this assumption, this will be very less value that can be neglected. That can be neglected because from this expression, from this assumption. So omega 1 is equals to what? Minus G by 2C, that is minus G by 2C minus, here it is square root of G by 2C whole square. This square and square root gets cancelled, minus G by 2C, that is omega 1, and omega 2 is equals to minus G by 2C plus G by 2C. So here we are having two frequencies, two cutoff frequencies. Now we can calculate the bandwidth, that is bandwidth is equals to omega 2 minus omega 1, that is G by C. Bandwidth is G by C. Okay, next, the maximum gain at resonance, it is A max is equals to Gm by capital G. The maximum gain at resonance, it is A max is equals to Gm by capital G. So from this we have the gain as well as bandwidth. Now the gain bandwidth product, it is A max into bandwidth, that is Gm by G into G by C. So G gets cancelled, we are having Gm by C. That is gain bandwidth product is Gm by C. The gain bandwidth product is Gm by C. So from this we can observe that in this expression, is there any frequency term is there? No frequency terms are there. So from this one we can conclude that the gain bandwidth product is independent of frequency. Okay, there is no dependency of the frequency for this gain bandwidth product. Okay, so to overcome the gain bandwidth product, that is the gain bandwidth limitation, we go for reentrant cavities as well as slow wave structures. These will be discussed later. Okay, so for a larger gain over larger bandwidths, we are going for these two. So reentrant cavities, slow wave structures, right? So next, effect due to, so RF losses, effect due to RF losses. In that, first one is skin effect losses, that is also called as conductor losses, that is also called as conductor losses. Here I am considering a conducting surface. Here I am considering the conducting surface. Okay, so that is skin depth. Delta skin depth is there. Delta for every conductor there is a skin depth. Okay, next as well as A effective, that is effective area over which the current flows. A effective will be there. This is the conducting surface. Conducting surface, right? Now these losses come into play at higher frequencies, at which the current has the tendency to confine itself to a smaller cross section of the conductor towards its outer surface. Okay, so where delta is skin depth, which is equals to square root of 2 by omega mu sigma. Already we know this expression. Delta is equals to square root of 2 by omega mu sigma. So that is delta is inversely proportional to omega, that nothing but frequency. It is inversely proportional to the frequency and directly proportional to A effective, where A effective is nothing but effective area over which the current flows. This is the effective area over which the current flows. Okay, so A effective is inversely proportional to 1 by square root of frequency, because here it is directly proportional and inversely proportional there, right? And where R is rho L by A effective, and R is nothing but resistance, that is rho L into square root of F. That is, as the frequency increases, so obviously R increases. As the frequency increases, R increases. Resistance increases, then losses will increases at higher frequencies. Simply, losses will increases at higher frequencies. Okay, so these losses can be reduced by increasing the size of the conductor. So we can reduce these losses by increasing the size of the conductor. Okay, next, dielectric losses. Dielectric losses occur in various type of insulating materials used in the device, spacers, glass envelope, silicon or plastic encapsulations, etc. The loss in any of these materials is generally given by P is equals to pi f V naught square epsilon r tan delta, where P is power loss, how much power loss is there, and epsilon r is nothing but, we know that relative permittivity of the dielectric, and delta is loss angle of the dielectric. Earlier delta is nothing but skin depth, here delta is represented as loss angle of the dielectric. So as the frequency increases, directly we can observe here, as the frequency increases, the power loss increases, right? As the frequency increases, the power loss increases. The remedy for this is to reduce the surface area of the glass. The remedy for this is to eliminate the tube based and to reduce the surface area of the glass. So next one is effect due to radiation RF losses, that is effect due to RF losses, that is radiation losses. So whenever the dimension of the wire approaches the wavelength, the dimension of the wire is approaching the wavelength, it will emit the radiation, that is radiation losses increases with increase in frequency. So radiation losses increases with increasing in the frequency. Okay, so the remedy for this is to use proper shielding of the tubes and its circuitry. So these are the references followed for this lecture. Thank you.